Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
As I said, we are going to share this video on the ECCP, European Cluster Collaboration Platform, after the meeting, and with it also the presentation, if it is right for the speakers, okay? So today we are going to dialogue about the industrial ecosystem, mobility, transport, and automotive. And in order to do that, we have four representatives. One from the DG Grow, Morgan Guillou, bonjour. Also, Veronica Elena Bocci from DITFR, Josep Nadal from STIAC, and Christian Schweger from Styria. Okay, so you will have, every one of you will have 10 minutes, more or less, okay? And the plan is after that, we will have an open discussion with the rest of the attendants. I know that also Christophe Guichard will take some minutes to make an announcement. I don't know if it would be best if we do it just now, Christophe, perhaps?
Good morning, Antonio. Yes, why not? We can do that.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Should I give you the presentation right, or would you prefer that I show the screen?
Yes, you can share the screen with my presentation. That would be great.
Okay, perfect. I will do that just immediately. Let me check because yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Christophe Guichard from the cluster unit of DG Grow, and I work particularly on cluster internationalization. And I wanted to take this opportunity to make an announcement briefly on our cluster internationalization agenda that a new call for expression of interest is now open to provide technical assistance for SMEs planning to go international. And as we know, it is currently very difficult to conduct international business activities during this pandemic. And we aim with these actions to facilitate the internationalization efforts of European SMEs by providing advisory services to 25 selected projects. We target to support European SMEs, and we want to push them to develop commercially viable business projects in partnerships with partners in third countries. The selected SMEs will have access to specialists and business advisors to receive direct support on their cooperation projects with partners in third countries. The technical assistance services will consist of tailored general and specific technical advisory support. It will be tailored to the specific needs of each selected project and will focus on the specific market targeted by the projects. This could include tailored business advice on marketing, on resilient business models, and technical services such as legal and financial advice, technical feasibility studies, IPR services, and etc. This support will be provided to each project for a duration of 3 to 6 months and will range from 40 to 66 expert days in total. So who can participate to this initiative? It is open to all European SMEs that were involved either in the European Strategic Cluster Partnerships Going International, the Cluster Go International Actions funded under COSME, or the European SMEs part of the consortium of the INESUP 1 projects, cluster facilitated projects for new industrial value chains. And these SMEs will be invited to demonstrate that they have already initiated cooperation with a partner in third country in relations to these two initiatives, European Strategic Cluster Partnerships Going International and INESUP 1 project. And at the bottom, yes, basically how to apply. We will organize a webinar on Thursday, on the 1st of October, open to SMEs, but also to clusters mainly, with a view to give you further information and guidance on how to apply and what would be the minimum requirement. And basically this call is open until the
Sorry, I am not hearing you. I don't know if the rest can hear you. No? Christophe, we are lost your voice. You were speaking out.
Yes, so maybe, can you hear me?
Yes, Marek.
Yes.
I can hear you.
So maybe I finished. So basically, we have the
on the 1st of October this week.
Hello,
webinar
Christophe.
on 1st October 2020.
That's all I wanted to share with you.
Okay.
Thank you, Christophe. We lost you when you were speaking on until when is open the call.
Okay, so the call is open until the 16th of October. And basically, we encourage SMEs to apply, but also we invite you to disseminate the information to these relevant SMEs to detect which one could be interested that have participated either in this Cluster Go International actions or Industry Plan action. And basically to also invite you, if you are interested, to participate to the webinar on the 1st of October this week to get further information and guidance on this action.
Yeah, and where can we find information about the webinar on the 1st of October?
It is on the link I've provided on the slide. It's all available on this one. It's available on the ECCP. There is all the information is provided on the ECCP to this link.
Okay, I will copy the link to the chat, and I am sure that there will be many SMEs interested. So congratulations for the call, Christophe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have 25 seats available for this action. So I think not too many, but it will be a great opportunity for these SMEs that will be selected and have already initiated cooperation with a partner in third country to get really further support, intensive support with different business advisory services that could be tailored to their specific needs to really enter into concrete business cooperation with a partner in a third country.
Thank you. Just one quick question. One project means one SMEs, or are we speaking of projects that combines SMEs?
Yes, one project, one SME.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Christophe.
You're welcome, Antonio. Thank you for letting me announcing it.
Okay, so now it's time to return to our main topic for today. You know, it's about the automotive transport mobility ecosystem. And we have with us today, sorry, because I am trying to present. Yeah, here. Perfect. We have with us Morgan Guillot from DG Grow. So welcome, Morgan. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Antonio. Good morning, all. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to participate in these webinars. I think you will take the floor and share the.
I can do that, or I have just given you the presentation, right? Whatever you prefer.
I think it will, if you could take the screen and present the.
No problem at all. We'll do
PowerPoint.
that. Yes.
Would be great. Thanks.
Okay, I'm opening the document. So I'm returning to the control of the screen. I think that now it's ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the purpose of this presentation was to provide you some elements of the role of the industrial cluster, which is the EU mobility, transport and automotive ecosystem, and the role of industrial clusters in relation with this ecosystem and the European economic recovery. I will try to be as short as possible, and if you want, you can go to the first slide, Antonio. Giving you some highlights first of how this ecosystem can be positioned within our broad Commission policy, and then address the recovery and the rebuild plan, and to give you some highlights on the priorities and how the current trends and national plans can be embraced in the context of the recent proposal, Next Generation EU. So I have put here some slides to remind quickly what the ecosystem approach is as part of our EU Commission industrial policy and industrial strategy announced last March. It's obvious that the mobility, transport and automotive ecosystem is particularly representative of all dimensions of this ecosystem, and particularly the fact that there is a big amount of players operating in the value chain, from startups to largest company, including research institution and also service providers, for instance, in the financial services, and also with a big role of suppliers, and among these suppliers, SME and micro companies. The ecosystem has also been particularly hit by the pandemic, and it has shown the importance of interdependence of the economies and how the integrated supply chains we have in this ecosystem play a major role. And finally, I think you can go to the next slide, Antonio. It has been key to use this ecosystem lens, especially for the transport, mobility, and automotive ecosystem, to analyze the needs of for recovery as we were making this exercise to prepare the next generation EU package. Indeed, the interdependency analysis, the analysis of the bottlenecks and the shortcomings, and also the regulatory context have played a major role in this analysis, but the possibility to analyze through this ecosystem approach how the crisis was accelerating trends we had already observed, the urgency of the needs, and the risk like bankruptcies, layoffs, and the vulnerability dimension of actors in the chain, for instance, SMEs. So I suggest you go to the next slide. Next one, sorry. So as you may have already seen this slide, but the ecosystem is focused on production of motor vehicles, ships and trains and accessories, their repair and maintenance, and transport. So and as I already mentioned, we embrace a lot of sectors, and the full supply chain and integrated relationships between all actors and players. If you go to the next slide, and I will now I will now illustrate its importance in terms of magnitude and size, as it has been assessed as part of our industrial strategy, and then the work we did on the recovery based on the preliminary assessment we did and Eurostat data. This ecosystem represents 7.1% of the EU added value, 3 trillion euros in turnover, 11.4 million employees, and 1,496,000 companies, including in this last number more than 90% of SMEs. As I said, it's the very complex nature of this ecosystem and the complexity of the value chains involved, as in a large number of countries, has been made more obvious when analyzing the impact of the crisis. And it's very important to keep in mind as part of work on recovery. Also, the size of R&D investments, which can be very important in some major member states, in terms of share of the R&D expenses, is obvious. And the importance of public investments and the role of public players. If we go to the next slide, I already gave you these key elements on identification. It's obvious that when we look now at the impact in terms of share of value added and share of employment as regards what can be anticipated due to the consequences of the current crisis, that this ecosystem will play a major role both in the rebuild and in the repair. Currently, there are a lot of consequences which you all know, so we have spotted here the key impact in this ecosystem, which are, of course, the supply chain disruptions, the reduction in production and sales, and the need for huge investment, particularly in electrification and automation, which have been made more obvious as part of this crisis. More specifically, on the next slide, some other key dimensions which can be noted from the impact of the COVID crisis are the fact that despite the drop in the sales in which I mentioned, there is a slow relaunch, and the turnover tends to go back to 10% drop at the end of this last quarter. So there is a relaunching of production and also of sales, which it can be very different from one country to the other, though. We also noted that the negative confidence indicator, which was one of the worse as was the drop in turnover, the ecosystem was ranked second bad for the confidence indicator in May. It has had a major improvement in June already, together with aerospace. So this is the best improvement we noticed in confidence indicators, and that's quite a positive sign. You would also notice the importance of the equity loss, which is also ranked second in our estimations if we take into consideration the impact at the level of all 14 ecosystems we work on. So there is a big impact of the crisis on equity loss, which can be translated into also the need into investment. The equity loss has a major relationship here with how to finance investment need. You can go to the next slide, which is about the challenges and opportunities which we have identified based on this ecosystem analysis. So this covers, and I've already mentioned that further as part of the crisis, the supply chain disruption, falling demand and production, and also resilience issues have to be tackled. There are also big challenges which we already identified prior to the crisis, which deal with the green and digital transformations. This ecosystem is in the heart of the green and digital transformation. It was in progress before the crisis. It has certainly made so far the ecosystem more vulnerable to external shocks, and that's a big challenge. Together with that, pollution and emission targets and the radical shift in technologies and regulatory framework changes are at stake. It's about achieving smart e-mobility and the clean technology shift. Other challenges are deal with the changes in consumer behaviors, the production methods, the logistics and the aftermarket models, the data security issues and privacy. There is, I mentioned it already, a huge investment need, and there is also an infrastructure gap to cover. The workforce skilling and upskilling needs are quite important in order to address the recovery and repair. And then there is an increased competition in this ecosystem with market divergences worldwide, meaning that the situation in the developing countries is quite different from the ones in the emerging markets. Sorry. These go together with opportunities. Green and digital transformations are an opportunity for the uptake of advanced, clean, proof, and digital technologies. It's also an opportunity to create synergies and spillover effects for other sectors of the economy. For instance, we mentioned here the example of smart grids, which has been quite obvious and is currently developing very quickly and offers a lot of opportunity as part of the recovery. There's going with that, there is an opportunity for enhanced competitiveness and resilience. The ecosystem plays a major role for innovation, and here again there is a big opportunity. This has been illustrated, for instance, recently by the number of patents which have been registered, and in batteries we have noticed for recently a 14% increase, and that's quite a huge increase and illustrating the big opportunity here. There are also opportunities linked with the business model shift and changes which involve high value creation and upskill job creation. There are opportunities to develop business, manufacturing, and marketing models which are new and fit for the climate neutral economy by 2050. for instance, smart factory and administration. There is obviously at the end of the road an opportunity for strengthening infrastructure and also ensuring accessibility, connectivity, and affordability of transport and vehicles for the EU citizens. So, Antonio, if you can go to the next slides, which will give an overview of how this is reflected in our initiatives. So the initiatives of the EU for this ecosystem, as you can see, are quite important in number and quite ambitious. They address the climate ambition and the proposal of a 55% cut in emissions by 2030, which has been announced and increased last week. It deals with clean vehicles and future clean-proof technologies. Here we have launched during July a public consultation for the revision of emission standards for cars, vans, lorries, and buses. This consultation is still ongoing and will give rise to an impact assessment analysis and a new proposal by the Commission. It deals also with a lot of initiatives and actions on European Battery Alliance. For instance, in May, we have reiterated at the level of the Commission the need to boost industrial resilience, strategic autonomy, green and digital recovery through this alliance. The alliance is now approved under the state aid framework, and it's covering a lot of initiatives in innovation, but also all aspects of the ecosystem, and a lot of actors are involved in this alliance and very active and proactive in initiatives and actions. It also deals with the connected and automated mobility. This relates to a strategy which has been developed in March 2019, but has been continuously nurtured and fed with a lot of initiatives and actions. For instance, more recently, I noted on the slide this 18 September 2020 recommendation on the toolbox for reducing the cost of deploying very high capacity network and ensuring timely and investment friendly access to 5G radio spectrum, which is key and has been announced last week. It also deals with upskilling and reskilling. That's a major challenge and opportunity, as I mentioned, and here we have communicated in July on the European Skills Agenda. The automotive industry is clearly part of this skill agenda, and we have had last week, for instance, virtual roundtable between the automotive industry and our commissioner and Commissioner Schmidt, discussing this pact for skill and the agenda, which is expected. I think, the pact is expected in November. The pact for skills. As regards measures dealing specifically with the recovery and the rebuild, there is full financial support for sustainable support and mobility envisaged under the various tools announced as part of the Next Generation EU proposal, but also through the MFF. So the Recovery and the Resilience Facility in particular, the Transition Mechanism, Invest EU and Horizon Europe are tools which are envisaged to be used to support financially the recovery, repair and rebuild of the automotive mobility and transport ecosystem. And there will be a particular focus on recharge and refuel, which means that as part of this support to the recovery, within the support to be given with what is called the recovery and resilience facility. So the main tools which is currently put on the table and for the 27 member states. In this facility, there is one heading called Recharge and Refuel, which is particularly addressing the transport and automotive and mobility ecosystem, and initiatives and actions which member states will develop for investments and reform in sustainable transport and mobility. Here, the European Commission is currently identifying priorities with the member states, discussing and assuring that the plans which will be presented starting October by the member states will correspond to what has been announced and discussed as part of the Next Generation EU package, so the recovery plan of the Commission, and now under discussion at the level of the Council and the Parliament. We expect that the Next Generation EU should be adopted by end of the year, implemented already in January 2021. Meanwhile, we are currently discussing with the member states on how they translate it into tangible measures for the recovery. And we have issued some guidelines last week on the 17th of September, which are available online. I think Antonio will put the presentation online so you could have access to it. I would strongly recommend that you review these guidelines as well as the Commission package for those of you who have an interest in be benefiting from this support from the EU funds under the recovery package. And it's very important that there is a cooperation between all stakeholders in this ecosystem, particularly representatives of the industry, SMEs, but also research centers. I mean, really all the players, unions, together with authorities, so that you can interact and discuss and follow up in the preparatory phase of this plan submission by member states, whether all aspects and components which are key for recovery are taken into consideration, and if you can also contribute to justifying and explaining how they can fit with the European priorities which have been announced, so green and digital transformation in particular, and how you can contribute to identify the key indicators, milestones, and time frame aspects. I think that's all for today. Antonio, I will give you the floor back, and I would be happy to answer your questions.
Merci beaucoup, Morgan. It has been a very complete review. Thank you very much. If you don't mind, we will go through the rest of the speeches, and after that, if we have time, we will have some minutes to have an open dialogue and hear questions from the rest of the attendants. But before, I will introduce briefly Marek, because Marek can share with us the data from, sorry if I find it, on our ecosystem on clusters. Okay, so Marek, are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm here. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I am presenting now the data on cluster on this ecosystem.
Yes. Thank you very much. Very quickly and brief, just to show that you have in the context what are clusters in it. So from our European Cluster Collaboration Platform, we identified the 184 industrial clusters which are related to this ecosystem. So it's really again another huge after health and agri-food we had yesterday. Most of them are located in Germany and Spain, France, Poland, and Italy, of course, and Romania. So mainly the automotive hubs of Europe. Then they all include large and SMEs. 3/4 of them are SMEs. What I can say as well, many of them, 16 of them, are very well managed. They receive the management gold label for good management. But of course, and they are very well as well linked internationally. So the collaboration, they are open. 43 of all these clusters are in any way in our cluster partnerships involved or thematic smart specialization platforms. So this is a huge and very important for jobs and automation, robotics, and transition ecosystem, which we need to have special focus on, as many clusters are part of this. Thank you.
You are very welcome, Marek. I need to say that because I have been working on automotive companies for 20 years, I need to say that I know that the culture in automotive this sector is about collaboration and internationalization. So I'm not surprised at all of that numbers. But now it's time to hear experiences from our cluster organization, and the first one to speak will be Veronica Bocci from DTEC. Are you there, Veronica?
Yes, I'm there. Antonio, if you want to share, yes, okay, perfect. Okay, I hope you can.
We can see. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, collapse. So I'm Veronica Bocci. I'm the coordinator of DTEC, and of course, I will talk about the railway industrial ecosystem that is inside the wider mobility and transportation ecosystem. Okay, Okay, this is a very brief screenshot about what DTEC is all about. So we are based in Italy and precisely in Tuscany. Although we were born as a regional cluster, we have become the leading railway cluster of Italy, also attracting companies and research organizations from other Italian regions. And this highlights immediately the importance of the concept of ecosystem. So having an ecosystem that is able to provide added value and acceleration to innovation and also internationalization. So some key numbers about us. What I would like to highlight is that the cluster organization DTEC that manages the regional railway cluster, the cluster organization DTEC is itself a cluster, because the number of companies and research bodies and industrial associations that you see over there are shareholders of DTEC. This allows us a management that is really pragmatic and very, very close to the ecosystem needs. Our role, we are member of the expert group of the European Commission on the competitiveness of the rail supply industry. That is key. I added a star because now under the recovery era, this expert group is in our sector, let me say, the governance, okay, the governance organization for the railway industrial ecosystem. And this is key. So shows once again the close collaboration between our cluster and the European Commission and the entire railway ecosystem. At the national level, we are also the leader of the working group for railway transportation within the cluster transportation that has been established by the Italian Ministry for Research. At European level, apart from being a partner to many EU projects, we are also coordinator of 2 ESCP, one for the internationalization, and last but not the least, one for cluster excellence. And this last, of course, is all about ecosystems. And last but not the least, we are, since few days, the lead partner of ERCI, that is the European network of all railway clusters in Europe. So 15 clusters covering more than 17 European countries. So this is why, this can explain why I can say something today to you on our sector. Our sector, I want to highlight this. Of course, today we are inside the mobility and transportation ecosystem, but when we talk about rail industrial sector, we have not to forget that also the construction ecosystem is included, because you cannot use only trains. You need the rails to use them. So these two ecosystems are strictly connected to the railway sector. And of course, our technologies and our solutions lie very, very much on electronics, digital, renewable energy, and the like. Okay, so we are very cross ecosystems. Why the railway sector is a key in this very period, above all, for a greener and more resilient EU. This statement from the former president of the European Union for the last semester says that rail will play a crucial role in helping the EU become climate neutral by 2050, and that COVID-19 crisis has also shown how rail transport can facilitate the supply of essential goods. Okay, because you will remember very well, of course, the problems with road logistics and the huge use of freight transport by rail to supply from food to medicines to toilet paper and the like. Okay, so finally, somehow also in for the freight transport by rail, this COVID crisis highlighted the importance to work and to push also this part of our sector. Why our sector is key for the European Green Deal? Because only 0.5% of transport emissions in the EU come from railways. You see the percentages, you see the different dimensions. That's why the rail transportation is key, and this is why next year the EU has decided to dedicate it to rail. So 2021 will be the European Year of Rail under the European Green Deal. Okay, so a great awareness about how important this sectoral mode has for Europe. Coming to the National Recovery Plan, of course, we are based in Italy. I will talk to you about Italy. Our country has adopted a few weeks ago guidelines for the adoption and the drafting of the detailed plan. 6 macro missions were identified: digitalization and innovation, ecological transition, health, education and research, social and territorial inclusion, last but not the least, the infrastructure marked by sustainability. And of course, we lie ourselves inside this part. Since the recovery plan funds, as far as we know, have to be committed by 2023 and have to be reported by 2026, the project's maturity is key. And of course, you can understand that when we talk about projects in an infrastructure sector like the railway sector is, requires, I mean, for having them to be mature, it takes a long time. That's why for Italy decided to fund for the huge majority infrastructures already included in the so-called Piano Italia Veloce, drafted last July, listing 130 strategic infrastructure for whom simplifying the bureaucratic procedures. Very few investments will be allowed in new green and digital innovation, meaning as new from the scratch, okay? Because of course we have to deliver and maturity is key. Going more into detail,
Veronica, I have lost you. I don't know if the rest can hear you, but I have lost you. Veronica? Can somebody tell me if you are hearing Veronica?
Hello, Antonio. No, we cannot hear her.
No? Veronica, we have lost you. But as we are quite delayed, we could jump to the Veronica. I see that Veronica?
Yeah. Can you hear me? No,
Now,
you don't hear me.
Yes, but we have lost you for some seconds. Please hurry up because we are quite
I will.
late.
Okay, sorry. I will go on. So this is a list, okay, just to say that there are several railway-related ones, but the key point here is where the Italian clusters involved in the identification of these contents? No. So how can we help? Okay. Here we come to the smart specialization. Because of course we gave to our region the contribution for the research and innovation strategies for S3. We did it in 2013 and in 2018 for the midterm review. And just to show that it's been many years that we have identified as drivers of our innovation, our sector, green and digital. Okay, so just to say this is the key message. In conclusion, Italy is delivering a national recovery plan complying with EU requirements on Green Deal and digitalization. The plan is being drafted without any clusters involvement. The plan will have to be pragmatic, working on mature projects. However, we can be helpful to our country thanks to the fact that we have been working since years on Green Deal and digitalization drivers. And that, of course, what will be key for our companies to complete the innovation process will be the new instruments that will be used, because innovations must reach the markets better and quicker and avoid the valley of death that is always there. Last conclusion is that current forms of collaboration among European railway clusters that we are involved in will be key to drive the recovery along a cross-national industrial railway ecosystems. And these are the countries with whom we have a stable collaboration with other railway clusters. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Grazie mille, Veronica. Sorry because
No, you're right.
I pressed you, but yeah, we are quite late. Everything is very interesting, so I am sure that we will need to extend the session, but please try to fit to the limit of the minutes, because if not, we will need to extend it quite long. So, Josep Nadal from SIAC, are you there? Can you hear us, Josep?
Yep.
Yes.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I will give you the presentation rights. Okay.
That's perfect.
So, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours. Please be brief.
Okay. Hold on. Let me just accept. Okay. Hold on a second. I'm just choosing the the screen I want to share. That should be this one here. Okay, you should be able to see me and see my screen. Could you please
Not yet,
confirm?
not yet, not yet.
Okay, not yet the screen.
No, no, no. I
Okay.
don't know if we have. Do we have your presentation?
Yep, you
Yes,
should.
Antonio.
Yes. So I am looking for it.
I don't know why I cannot share my screen. Okay.
Okay, I see your presentation. I will share it. Please go on.
Okay, that would be perfect. Thank you very much for your
Okay.
support.
No, you are very welcome. Okay, so please go on. Can you start your presentation?
Okay, I can see my own presentation. That's perfect. Okay, so thank you very much for inviting us. It's both a pleasure and an honor to be here with you guys, and thank you for all the attendants to take the time to share all these knowledge and experiences. So, if you please can move to the first or to second slide, please. Yep. Okay. So, what we just to give you a brief introduction, we are the cluster of the automotive industry in Catalonia. As you may know, Catalonia is one of the states in Spain. We represent over 10% of the turnover of the Catalan GDP, meaning more than 10,000 million euros in that. And 70% of the turnover comes from CX companies. Right now we are over 200 companies. 70% of them industrial companies, manufacturing companies in the automobile industry, and the other 30%, a little bit less than 30%, they are engineering companies, consultancy companies, universities, research centers, etc. The industry is a little bit higher than 140,000 employees. And if we go to Spain, just to give you also brief numbers, 11% of the Spanish GDP, it's also from the automobile industry. We manufacture a little bit over 2.8 million vehicles in last year. We offer employment for over 500,000 employees, and we export almost everything we manufacture here. Right now, for the COVID-19 situation, Spanish automotive industry these days are around 85% of its production capacity. I would say the main manufacturers like Seat or Renault, PCA, etc. They are really very similar numbers that we used to be before the pandemic. So we are pretty happy about that, and we'll see how it evolves in the next few months. About Europe and worldwide, if we talk about the automobile industry, the sector produces over 90 million units per year. Just to give you a brief numbers of that. Europe right now represents 23% of the worldwide manufacturing, and Europe manufacturers are over 300, a little bit more than 300 vehicle production plants in Europe located. Next, please. If we look at the priorities, I would say we just presented recently our strategic plan for the cluster, which would be 2020-2024, and we identify four main market trends we are really focusing on, and actually we did some adjustments on the cluster structure to be able to suit these market trends. One of them will be carbonization and electrification. That would be the trend number one. Autonomous vehicle is something very important, at least for our manufacturers here, and also all the supply chain. And connected vehicles, we have a few testing facilities here and many tier ones and tier two developing components and solutions for the connected vehicles. And the new business models, as my colleagues that presented before me, they mentioned. Right now we are not only talking about automobile industry, we are talking about mobility in all its, let's say, expander, on all its meaning. Next, please. As a SIAC, the role playing we had in the last few months, and especially what we see right now as a cluster, it would be, let's say, if we have to put it as you request us, what would be our role in the national recovery plan? But I mean, talk about national, talk about European, I think it's pretty similar right now. We identify three areas, let's say three focus that we should take care, which is new challenges that came from the COVID-19, of course, new activities and projects that we should be focusing on, and proposals. You ask us also to make few proposals for the European Commission. So yeah, we'll go with that. So next, please, to see in detail these three focus. Okay, first we will be talking about limited supply vehicle components. That will be one of the big challenges we had during this pandemic, because of the, I mean, the automobile industry, as many other industries, it's a really worldwide industry right now. So what happens here affects in the other side of the globe, right? So one of the big challenges we had, and right now it's, I would say, almost solved, is this limitation on the supply and the components for the vehicle manufacturers. Second is that, as probably happened also in your countries, we've been forced to close our factories. According the government, they require us to close at least 3 weeks on the very, let's say, very beginning of the pandemic. And this closing facilities really had a big impact on the economy of these, let's say, health economy of these companies, especially for the SMEs. And let's say, to stop a production plan, as most of you may know, it's not just like a switch. You switch it off, you switch it on, and you are back there. To switch off a production plant, it takes time, most of the cases almost a week. And to start again, it takes also times. In the best case scenario, I would say between a week or 2 weeks, depending on the machinery, the production plants they have. So closing factories really had an impact about a month and a half on the production capacity of the companies. Number three would be the decrease of the work capital and liquidity, because most of these companies, of course, they have assets to be paid. They had to attend most of the payments without getting any income for this month and a half, or in some cases even 2 months. So liquidity, it's been an issue that the government here in Catalonia and Spain, in both cases, they work hard to try to make it as easier as possible for the companies, but it's not as easier as the government presented on the TV. So the reality, most of the companies, especially the SMEs, they had to face, it is, because in some cases it's not yet solved, but most of the cases it was harder than expected. Most of the companies get the liquidity they needed so far. Not all of them, not as much as they wanted, but most of them get it. And right now we have a challenge about the work capital returning to the production plants. The force work that works on the production line, that's been introduced at the very beginning of the end of the let's say the mandatory closing facilities. So I would say before the summertime, most of the workforce and the working lines, they were back there with all the measures, of course, required for the sector. And but let's say all the engineers and all the people working from offices, they are right now, we just get a new regulation last Friday, not this very last one, but like 10 days ago, we just get the new regulations for the working from home situation here in Spain. So we are just trying to adapt to this new reality. I would say that all the temporary, let's say, files that were prepared for the pandemic, most of them, I would say, more than 90% of the workers are back to work, both from home or from the office. So I would say in this situation right now we are pretty in the similar numbers before the pandemic. And of course, the decrease in the vehicle sales, that's something that at the very beginning of the summertime and also along summertime, um, they increase, of course, after 3-4 months of these vehicle sales stop. But right now in September, we'll see in October, November how it performs, because the numbers went down quite pretty quickly. Next, please. On the project activities, and I would just highlight three of them that we support and develop from the cluster. The first of them is the CX marketplace. It's a marketplace not to sell the masks and globes and everything, but to really try to support the national production industry. So we just want to make sure that all the products and services that the local companies are manufacturing and offering, they are known for the rest of the ecosystem we have in the cluster. So we set up a marketplace where you can both offer or request solutions, technologies, products, laboratories, or wherever you need or offer. And also for the universities searching for people to teach in the classes, in the classrooms. So it's been I would say pretty successful so far. We just launched it like 3-4 months ago, but the success is quite high. So we assume that it's something that the industry really needed and really appreciated. Second, it's a talent platform. It's something that we really launched last September, so a year ago, and we make a pilot testing last year. And so far right now we are just preparing to we're just opening to the rest of universities and careers to make sure that all the students get a direct relationship with the universities and the industrial reality we are facing on the industry, on the companies in the cluster ecosystem. Last year, with only 2 degrees participating on this platform as a pilot testing, we get over 100 students, over 50 challenges from the industry for the students, and the participation was quite high. I would say higher than we expected. So right now we're just promoting this talent platform in a way that we want to really join the talent in the universities.
Joseph.
And
sorry,
yeah,
Joseph. 1 minute, please. Okay, we need to.
It's okay. I'm just one slide for the end, right?
Okay.
So that's something very important. And also the ACN COSME proposal. This is a proposal we successfully submit a couple of years ago. But the ACN ecosystem, I would say it's pretty helpful. We are right now 13 or 15 European clusters from different regions. So the ACN is one of the main focus right now for us to work in a collaborative way. If you want to move to the almost last slide. So about the proposals that we are having right now, I would say the relationship between the cluster and the administration, it's pretty important for us. I would say it played and will play a key role for the recovery of the economy. Second, I would highlight the relationship between the ecosystems inside the clusters, but also between the clusters as well. We are 10 automotive clusters in Spain. We met every week for the last I would say almost a year. So it's very important not only to work in a collaborative way inside the clusters, but between clusters, and it is both a national and international level. That's something that I would say very important. And third, and I'm finishing with that, it's the Green Deal, all the proposals you guys are preparing for the European Commission. We are really looking forward to receive them, to see how they work, what do you expect from us there, and we are really looking forward to hear from them, because we'll go there as a one of the focus for the clusters and to support the industrial economy we represent in our states, in our regions. And that would be all. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm very happy to be here sharing with you. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome, Josep. Sorry for my interruption, but
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you
we
for
are very late. Okay, so thank you. Congratulations for the work. And now it's time to hear the last speaker, Christian Schweger. Hello.
Thank you very much.
Christian. I can
Tanya,
see
for
you.
having me.
Should I give you the presentation rights, or would you prefer that I share from my computer?
Ask you to share it, please.
Okay. Let's look for the presentation. I think it's the
one above.
Yeah, I see it.
Perfect. So, thank you very much. Since we are being late a bit, I'm trying to jump right in my presentation and keep it short. Thank you for having me here. My name is Christian Schweger. I'm the head of the automotive department at the Stereo Mobility Cluster, and right now I'm recommended by the system to switch off my camera for better connection. Next slide, please. I wanted to start with a short presentation of the region of Styria, but I think the slide is talking for itself. And if you like, you may study it yourself later. Coming to the AC Styria Mobility Cluster, it's similar. It's been founded 25 years ago when the region of Styria was struggling economically, and 25 years later, there's a similar situation. I'll come back to this later on. Next slide, please. Here you can see some facts and figures about the mobility clusters. We have about 300 partners with about 70,000 employees and about 70 billion euros annual turnover. The region of Styria, the companies in itself have about 12% R&D rate, and we are proud as a cluster to provide more than 100 trainings per year. Next slide, please, Antonia. The key service provided by the cluster consists in bringing together and supporting steering companies throughout the value-added chain. And in this respect, the cluster understands itself as being a link between trade and industry, research and public institution, which might not be very new for you. We are representing these companies in the industrial sectors as shown above, and the corridor topics like autonomous systems, digitalization, smart production, etc., and eco-friendly innovative technologies. On the next slide, we have identified factors of success for the clusters, like leading companies as partners and shareholders, to mention only a few companies like Magna, Siemens, and AVL. A high number of universities and research institutions as partners, a dynamic public sector, the balance of interests, and last but not least, many SMEs. Some of them, as you can see in the next slide, have been breaking new ground by expanding their portfolios and producing devices for disinfection of cabin interiors, traffic light systems to control the amount of visitors, or dispensers for PSE, to name but a few. What can clusters do for the European recovery plan, and what has to be done already? For example, partners of AC Styria established a sophisticated testing environment for autonomous driving on 400 kilometers of public roads and proving grounds on the initiative by the AC Styria cluster, and therefore meeting challenges of the future and goals of the European Union. On the next slide, you can see Air Labs, a research center for unmanned aircraft systems, which is another example for a research project initiated by the cluster. And one of our non-university partners, the Hydrogen Center Austria has been researching for years the storage and distribution of hydrogen, as you can see on the slide, on the next slide. Therefore, we are meeting goals from the European Union by promoting green fuel in researching fuel cells and hydrogen as fuel of the future. Next question is what can be done by governments and what has been done already. Regional and national governments have taken some measures. As mentioned before, 25 years after the founding of the AC Stereo Mobility Cluster, the economy is struggling again, this time not only in Styria, but in Europe and all over the world. The European Union has answered with its recovery plan. Styria and Austria have taken their own message. This spring, for example, usage rate of production capacity of the local mobility industry dropped to about 34%, leading to a shutdown of about 30% of the companies, and others suffered with drops between 20 and 80%. By now, most of them have reopened, many of them using governmental support like short-term working, educational leaves, tax deferrals, interest subsidies, or loan guarantees. The next slide, please. What we think needs to be done in the future is to promote and fund digitalization, autonomous driving, mobility as a service, the research on alternative fuels, and decarbonization. So far, we concur with what Josef has said before. We're pretty similar in our estimation of future needs to keep the mobility industry going. On the last slide, we can find some proposals already have been made. One of those, which seems pretty important to us as a cluster, is to raise research spending, or at least rather have absolute amounts dedicated to research than relying on a research quota, because national gross product is going to decrease, and therefore research spending will also, if attached to the research quota. So far, the proposals and the perspective from the Austrian Mobility Cluster. Thank you for having me. Thank you for attention.
You are very welcome, Christian. Thank you for the direct way with what you have presented your activities and your proposals. It is needed at this moment, so thank you. We are late, but I think it makes sense, as we have Morgan with us, at least to give you the opportunity to have some question for her. Does anybody has a question, a idea, a proposal? The floor is open now for everyone.
Hello, Antonio. Lucia speaking here.
Hello, Lucia.
In the chat, I would be interested to know where the journey goes more in the direction e-mobility, H-mobility, hydrogen mobility, and is there any relation to circular economy? Of course, all is part of the Green Deal, but would be interesting to know whether there are any good practices to share in this relation. Many thanks.
Who wants to answer? Morgan, would you give us your vision?
So if I understand well your question, Lucia, it would be, are there good practices which can be shared, which could be inspiring as part of the next generation EU package, right? Is my understanding correct?
The good practices is more of a question towards the cluster organizations, if they have already introduced any good practices or initiatives for circular economy, for example, in relation with batteries, which is an issue. But at the more, let's say, higher level, the question is it more e-mobility, more hydrogen mobility, a combination of the two? Where does the journey go? If it's possible to look a bit into the future.
I can say a few words on the railway sector. So thanks for the question, Lucia. What it is called the circular economy has been applied in the railway sector since decades. I mean, at the end of life of railway vehicles is an issue that has been addressed since a long time, because also of the huge dimensions of the vehicles we are talking about. So up to now, we are more or less 99% of recycling of trains at the end of their life. So circular economy is embedded from the very design phase. Okay, and coming to hydrogen, of course, there is a flagship initiative promoted, industrialized in Germany. So hydrogen train, we are not following it, but our region is going to adopt those trains. And coming to batteries, how we are developing batteries through the use of graphene. Okay, so this is our, yes, we have a company inside our cluster that is specialized in bidimensional materials such as graphene, and batteries is a flagship project on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Victoria. Christian, would you comment on the question from Lucia?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you for the question, Lucia, because these questions are the ones that we hear from our partners. They are interested, of course, to know where we are heading to, and they are asking for just and fair regulations for every participant in the mobility industry, and of course some kind of guidelines, orientation, where the future of the mobility will go to. So therefore, I'm glad to hear Veronica's statement regarding hydrogen electromobility. But we would like to have a much more concrete answer, maybe from the European Commission, the EU itself. And we're trying to get these answers at CORE in a fortnight at mid of October at the Automotive Intergroup. We are looking forward to more answers concerning these topics. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you, Christian. So I don't know if we should close, or is there any other? Stein is later, but is there any other last question? If not, thank you everybody for this session. I see that we need to speak more about that. This is just one introduction, very interesting introduction, but I think that it makes sense to extend with a new session soon this dialogue, and look for what Lucia was speaking about, concrete references of what clusters working on this area are doing or can do for the future. So thank you everyone, and I hope to see you soon, tomorrow if you want.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.